feelings right.
Hello, everyone. This is your always tactful host, Pendy.
And this is Paul, also known as EastX Twitch.
Hiya! Hoo! Whatcha?
You're working up quite a sweat over there. What is that sword you're swinging like a bat?
It's the Sword of Pendy. Dai has the Sword of Dai, so I figured I'd get my own sword.
Huh, does it have an aura of justice?
No. That would be the Dark Pendy Spear. The Sword of Pendy is built to handle my pendonic aura.
Hey, whoa. Keep your aura to yourself, Louis C.K.
Sorry. I get a little excited about my sword. Just give me a second here. I'll put the sword back in its scabbard. Aha! Oh, whoops. No, not quite. Let's try this again. No. Damn it. No. Man, this is a big one.
Yikes. While Pendy figures out how to handle a sword, I'll go ahead and welcome our audience to Tactfully Dai, a Slimetime podcast spinoff that covers just about everything in the world of Dragon Quest, the Adventure of Dai, and the Dragon Quest Tact mobile game.
That's right. We'll talk about the latest and greatest with Dragon Quest Tact first.
Good. I've traveled to talk some tact.
We are knee-deep in the true Dragon Quest X event, which centers around version 5 of Dragon Quest X, the Japanese MMORPG.
The event's big draw is the Lightning Luminary, an upgraded version of Anne Lucia, who has her own character builder this time. How have your pulls been for her?
So far, I've gotten lucky and gotten her once on tickets. I went very hard on a lot of the Dai characters in the previous event, so I'm mostly taking a break from doing a lot of pulls. I'm hoping to get at least one awakening for her by the time her banner goes away, which isn't anytime soon. How about you?
Well, I have the same number of Anne Lucias as you. I got nothing for the paid pull and nothing from the ticket pulls, which I did many of, but I did get her from the 7th gem pull. Because this is a hero with a character builder, I wasn't willing to just skip the banner, so I committed to keep it on going until I at least got her, and then I'm just gonna probably just end up sharding her up to get a heart.
Well, that makes sense. Moving away from that, something that we previewed last episode was the true Dragon Quest V event, featuring many new characters, including the main protagonist. Not to be confused with the current event in the global version, the true Dragon Quest V event is currently happening in Japan, and we will welcome it to global in a few months.
And since the last episode, we've learned that the Treasures and Trapdoors boards, or TNT boards for short, will most likely be a permanent feature of the game.
Yes, one of the cool people from the Big Draki Squad showed us their Japanese account, and you can see that the TNT board has been added to the adventure menu. They removed the equipment training quest levels to make it fit.
Someone from BDS showed you that? How can we be sure it's not a trap?
It's a trap. No, this is one of the cool guys that ended up going to the Dragon's Den server. They're nice guys.
If you say so. Well then, does this mean the equipment training quests, the ones where you can farm oaken clubs and basically nothing else, are going away? Or did the developers put those levels somewhere else? We don't know yet.
No, I didn't ask the Big Draki guy, so I'm guessing they could have thrown them in the extra menu. That's where they throw some stuff sometimes. If they're still around, I would bet it's there.
Your gambling addiction will get you in trouble someday. Anyway, an interesting development we'd like to speculate about is what if the Japanese and the global versions of Dragon Quest Tact were to merge with each other?
War of the Visions, Final Fantasy Brave Exvius is going to synchronize their global and Japanese servers together.
Don't you mean merge?
I don't. The servers will still be separate, but they will now do all of the events at the same time.
Whereas with Dragon Quest Tact, the global version is several months behind the Japanese version. We used to be even more behind.
Apparently, the global version of Brave Exvius is getting compensated for whatever they'll miss when they get brought forward to the Japanese timeline. What do you think about this? Do you think this could be a good idea for Tact or no?
Well, if it helps the developers run the game more affordably, then it's probably a good thing overall. Because, with games like this, they have their busy and their dry periods, and you want them to be able to keep doing the game and not decide that, the global players aren't spending enough, so we're just going to kill that version, So I think this kind of thing could make the game more affordable for them. And also, I think that if they were to bring us forward by 3 months or however many months that would be, then yeah, we would want some compensation because it would really mess us up. And we'd probably still end up at a disadvantage because this is not a generous developer. That's what I think.
Right. And if they do it the same way that they're doing it in Brave Exvius, that would be good that they're still keeping the servers separate, because if we missed some things or had to get everything accelerated a few months, that, like you said, that would put put us at a great disadvantage to our Japanese counterparts. That wouldn't be fair at all. But and imagine if they squished global players in with the Japanese Tact players. Like, imagine that. You think having to compete with some of the whales like Last Dawn and Colton are bad now. There's 10 times as many of those people in Japan.
Jeez.
Personally, yeah, those whales. Personally, I like being behind Japan a bit. I like being a few months behind. It gives us a nice preview of what is to come and how to prepare for it. For example, I know what characters to concentrate on to prepare for the co-op mega boss battle with Estark in the true Dragon Quest V event that's going on in Japan right now. I know this from looking at the Japanese guides that they've already created. So, if you're wondering, Ruff, Mont, Jamiris, Robot Mendini, and the Dragon Quest V protagonists at about one awakening or so will be very important. Getting shards for Ruff is now a priority for me while we have the ability to farm awakening shards in our current event. And I know not to sleep on powering up Robot Mendini during our upcoming Robot Fest, which I'm guessing will be in like September, October timeframe.
Didn't you say it would also be difficult to sleep on Robot Mendini since she's so exciting?
I don't know about exciting, but definitely important to take down Estark, the mega boss version of him.
Well, thank you for that advice.
You're welcome. Recently, the Dragon Quest Tact social media sites published the top 100 high scores from the Adventure of Dai large battle of the 6 legions of the Dark Lord event. Try saying that 5 times fast.
Okay, the Adventure of Dai large battle. That was it.
That's all you could muster, huh?
I basically said it.
So, Aces 1 had some great representation, the guild that we're both in the top 100. We had, those whales we were talking about before, Last Dawn and Colton, and then we had Maybros, Mesmeron, Geo, and Aces 1 Samus all represented our guild on that scoreboard.
So they did. They did a fine job. And in fact, Last Dawn was particularly helpful because he helped a lot of us who had been kind of procrastinating on that particular challenge get our scores up. I didn't even want to get into the top 100 because, as usual, I was like pressed for time, But still, he helped me get to like 150 or 300, whatever it was. But I got a decent reward, and I couldn't have done it without him. So much appreciated. And all those guys tried really hard, and they have great teams.
Yeah, because I was sharing some of the Japanese guys to get us started, but he took the base of that and he just was able to tweak it, and he got a lot of people in the top 100 that way, or at least much higher scores than they had before. So that was very helpful. It was great.
He's a great guy despite his whale status.
One of our most valued Facebook group members, our Tact Global Facebook group, Eye in the Sky, pointed out that Thailand had some good representation on that board too for the top 100.
All right. Eye in the Sky has made some great beginner's guides for our Tact Global Facebook group, and he often posts helpful advice and tips in the group.
Yes, I was under the very ignorant impression that Eye in the Sky and all of those people were actually part of the Taiwan contingent of the game for some reason.
No, he's not from Taiwan, but he has tied one on in Taiwan. Actually, I've chatted with Eye before, so I know all about him. He's friends with Sagat.
So if you see all of those people with the capital letters TH in the name, it's TH for Thailand. Duh. Ignorant Pendy is ignorant.
You thought TH stood for tiny hands. Actually, you probably didn't make the Thailand connection because spelling has never been your strong suit, poor dude.
Have you seen our episode outlines? Anyway, Thailand also represented with at least 9 people in the top 100. That's pretty damn good. Thank you, Eye in the Sky, and everyone from Thailand that supports the game. I had no idea.
Thanks also for providing the world with neckties, which I assume Thailand does. Well, in less ignorant news, global players recently got a new roadmap for August.
Yeah, we got part 3 of the true Dragon Quest X event in early August, followed by new events in mid-August.
Mid-August will also bring a new Blossom Battle Road and another Mendini Hawk campaign.
In late August, we finally get part 4 of the main story.
Good, I want to see what happens in the story. This one's also pretty good because sometimes our roadmaps have been awfully vague.
Super vague. In the past, we'll get items labeled as Dragon Quest numbering event or new events. If it wasn't for seeing what the Japanese get ahead of us, we'd have no idea what any of those were.
Yeah, wasn't one of the roadmap items this time called new events?
Yes, but unlike in the past, they actually put silhouettes of the featured monsters in the new events block. So we have a pretty good clue of what is to come.
Nice. It's good to see them finally post a competent preview of what's coming up. It builds more anticipation that way.
Hey, remember when we got those Mam and Baran apology crystals?
Yes, that was unusually nice of those stingy old developers.
At first glance, I thought it was a Dragonoid Baran crystal. I was so hyped. It was going to bring my Dragonoid Baran to 5 hearts, and I could use the Dragon Charge for something else. I could save it for another future dragon or one of my other ones.
Another classic Pendy mistake.
I was so disappointed when I realized that. I even posted it in the Discord too. I had egg on my face for sure.
Hey, it could have been worse. You could have messed up in the guild tournament.
Oof. Don't even get me started on that. I made some good contributions, but also had some tough losses.
Yeah, well, we did well overall. With only 19 members, our Guild Aces 1 made it to the Master Tournament, the highest tournament bracket, and won second place.
My new defense team really shined. It won 4 matches. Dark King Vern, hey Vern, was a great addition. Even if someone won against my team, they never got the full score of 160. They ranged from 110 at the lowest to 145 at the highest. So how did your defense team do?
Well, that was some good defenses, dude. As for mine, I know mine won 3 times. Maybe it was only 3, but my team was made up of Zenlon, CGM, Maldragora, Dragonoid Baran, Forest Dragon, and Leary Lout, which is 2 cover units, you know. And the Zenlon was only 3 hearts, even though I got him to 4 and then 5 hearts shortly after after the guild thing started. But they still did really well despite that. So how did you end up losing during the tournament?
Well, my first loss was really of no consequence. It was against a super easy guild in our 4th qualifier match. I wanted to take on a tougher opponent, but it was too much for me. That team had a 5-heart Dragon Knight Dai and Dark King Vern. Hey Vern! And even with my loss, we won it 25-60 to 1405. It wasn't even close. It didn't really matter.
Yeah, that was no big deal at all. But where did the second loss come from?
My second loss came in our match against TWR, which was our toughest bout of the entire tournament. I was one of 3 losses against that guild.
A shame. And while we had 3 losses, TWR also had 3 losses of their own. Unfortunately, they outscored us overall, and we lost by just 50 points.
It was just bad timing, not just for me, but a lot of people. That ended up being on a Friday night / Saturday, and many of us were busy, including myself.
Alas, and this resulted in people such as those whose names rhyme with Bendy fighting without coaching.
Yes, yeah, even with some of our wins that probably could have had more points had they had time for coaching, but people's schedules just were not good for that period of time. And one of our losses was coached, but the other 2 weren't, including mine. I believe the other guy that wasn't coached was on a cruise, if I remember right, so he didn't have time to get coached either.
Yes, he was, but we're not throwing him overboard.
For myself, I was on the road with friends that Friday to a convention in Virginia. I had time to fight the match, but not get online to get coached. Certainly not in the car on the way there right after work. And when we arrived, we went out to dinner, and then I ended up working on my cosplay prep for the rest of the night before turning in early.
Cosplay prep, you say? What did you cosplay as? The ghost of winning at Tact in the past?
A brilliant idea, but no. I was dressed up as the protagonist from Dragon Quest V. That Saturday, we went to GalaxyCon, and I got to meet Yuri Lowenthal, who voices Luca in the Dragon Quest Your Story movie.
Isn't Luca the protagonist of Dragon Quest V?
Yes, and no, he's the protagonist of Dragon Quest V has a couple of different names, but if you know the plot of the movie, he's he is, but he isn't. And I can't say without giving away spoilers from the movie.
Okay, so as I understand it, Luca is the Your Story version of the protagonist from Dragon Quest V, although he's usually called something else in other versions.
Correct.
How about that? Well, it must have been cool to meet him, no matter how much Your Story's ending ruins the whole movie. Darn, I can't get over that.
Yeah, I know. It is different for sure. It's either a love it or hate it kind of thing with that ending.
Yeah, and there was no need for that. They could have just made a normal movie instead of copying the Lego movie, and nobody would hate that movie. But instead, they thought they were smart, although they were actually being derivative, and they shot themselves in the foot. That's my take anyway.
No, I gotcha. I understand. I've warmed up to the ending since I've seen it, but I completely understand that reaction from a lot of the fans. I'm like, what the heck? You're building up to Nimzo, and you're gonna get this final climactic battle scene on the big screen with the final boss of Dragon Quest V, and then you get this other guy instead who's a virus who's like, oh, shut up, loser.
Oh my gosh. And again, it's they clearly got the idea from the Lego movie and they're copying it, but they're not as smart or good at it. So it's frustrating. And even if it was cool in the Lego movie, for me it's not cool in the Dragon Quest movie. But what can you do?
I mean, it's still nice to a certain extent, though. I mean, he's going back and he's talking, has flashbacks to playing Dragon Quest V as he's a kid and how much joy he got out of it and so on and so forth. So it has some nice moments to it, but I understand where you're coming from for sure.
You know what that would have been nice in? Anything else except for the Dragon Quest V movie.
I gotcha.
So let's move on.
Yes. But hey, you know what? Aces, getting back to our guild, Aces 1 finally has a 20th member joining us soon since we've been short one guy. We were at 19. I can't say who it is or where he's coming from yet, but I am very excited.
I hear he's quite the Italian stallion. Yeah, we got to preview the box this guy's working with, and it's good. Of course, the box would be the units that he has collected. Mm-hmm. He's going to help our guild regain that bit of strength that we lost when our former member got eaten by a shark.
The new guy has already joined our Discord, and he really fit right in right away with some of his great jokes. I think he'll fit in fine with our band of merry misfits. That means we'll be in shape again to try and take on the big dorky squad. We're coming for you, BDS. Oh, yeah.
Those punks. That's more like it. But don't praise our new boy just because he listens to the podcast. Now then, before we get into the Dai portion of the show, it's time for the Tact Tip of the Day.
Tip of the Day.
Did you know you can fight against your own team when you first set up your defense team in Guild Arena tournaments?
That's right, tacticians. When you go to the Guild Tournament screen, hit the Tournament Data button towards the top middle of the screen. From there, you can battle any of the teams set up by anyone else in your guild.
You can even fight your own team. Pendy, stop hitting yourself.
Ow!
Dang it, Pendy. I should have stopped hitting yourself.
Ow! Ow, that really hurt. And that's amazing. That was our Tact Tip of the Day. Tip of the Day. Now let's get into some Dai.
Every week, we're going to review at least 2 episodes from the newest Dragon Quest, The Adventure of Dai anime. But this week, it's 3 episodes.
Yes, and we'll get back into our normal 2 after this. We'll also go into other Dai-related news, such as the upcoming Dai console game, merchandise, and whatever else we find in the world of Dai.
Episode 40 is called A Master of Darkness Against His Pupil. In this episode, Mistfern unleashes the monsters of his Shadow Legion to take out our heroes. The heroes quickly wipe out the army. However, Mistfern shows them that his army is never ending, as long as he has his dark aura within the castle to keep regenerating them. When our heroes are weakened and set upon by a fresh wave of the Shadow Legion, Hyunkel appears and wipes them out. He challenges Mistfern to a duel on top of the castle, but he's overmatched. Hyunkel is thrown to what could be his death, but Mom is able to save him as he falls. Mistfern appears and freezes everyone with his dark puppetry decimation field. He tries to goad Hyunkel into succumbing to his dark aura, but Mom convinces him to stop. As Mistfern goes for the killing blow against his former pupil, Hyunkel turns to his light of justice, breaks free, and goes for a counterattack.
This is when the animators just go into absolute overdrive with Mam kicking some serious ass. That first sequence of her fighting the Shadow Legion, where even her eyes shine bright pink as she powers up, is just fantastic. Also, everything with Shu here is very entertaining. Whether it's interacting with Bannock or being jealous of another possible suitor for Mam's affection, apparently he also has quite the hard noggin as he shatters a monster's sword. Who knew? This is also a good episode where Hyunkel continues to struggle with his true identity. We'll see more of that soon and throughout the rest of this series.
Oh boy. Yeah, I agree that Mom's martial arts prowess is fun to watch in this one. The Shadow Legion, we mentioned earlier, is mostly made up of restless armors and night aberrants, but it also has living statues and eraser blades mixed in, flying daggers with faces on them. They're less cool and imposing than if they had been hand-drawn, but that's pretty common with the new Dai and modern anime in general. We also get a flashback with Pop and his mentor. It turns out that Matariv is sick, something that wasn't apparent when the heroes first met him. I hope he'll be okay, but he is very old. Oh, and Mistfern unleashes 3 armored warriors, an original enemy created for this story. They're empty suits of armor like the one that Mistfern once let Flazard wear. Hyunkel tears the armored warriors up right away though, so they're not even really given a chance to be threatening or memorable. Bit of a waste. Lots of fun overall. That leads to our next episode.
And that would be episode 41, The Strongest Sword. Hyunkel's attack injures Mistfern, partially revealing his face. This absolutely enrages Mistfern, so he turns up the power of his decimation field to the point where blood is literally being squeezed out of our heroes. Mistfern then turns his rage directly directly at Hyunkel. Before he can do too much damage, though, Dai arrives and cuts Hyunkel and the others free. A minor shadow monster has taken over the piloting of Sovereign Rock Castle and heads towards the human leaders gathered at the tower. Dai rushes towards Sovereign Rock Castle and slices it in two, saving everyone inside of the tower.
Well, I'm certainly intrigued by Mistvern's face, which is apparently human or darkling shaped. As always, Mistvern is a big cheater, snagging everyone in his web-like decimation field. The heroes feel like suckers for getting caught by it so easily, but that's how it's got to be so they can be under pressure. By the way, Lon Varuk, the darkling weaponsmith, finishes crafting Dai's legendary weapon, the Sword of Dai, in this episode. The weapon has this limitation that it has a mind of its own and can't be drawn if it considers the opponent unworthy. This is a new gimmick to limit Dai's powers, much like the idea that Dai can't use his draconic aura for very long. That idea was introduced a while back. I know Dai can't be invincible in the show or the comic, but nobody else's legendary weapons have any limitations, so this one feels contrived. Come on now. However, I do love when Mistvern asks Dai to show him what the sword can do, and Dai replies that Mistvern's not worth it, and the sword says so. That's fun. And we do get to see Dai destroying the castle with the sword, so it's not all bad.
I love Pop's sarcasm in the beginning of this episode. Is my favorite part. Hyunkel is monologuing about his newfound power, and then Pop says, "Yay, we're still stuck in this decimation field, you know."
Haha.
Yeah. This episode opens up the question on why it's so important for Mistvern to avoid revealing his face. We won't find out why for quite a while, though. And before Dai takes out the castle, I love how the world leaders in the tower are bathed by the red light of the eyes of Sovereign Rock Castle as it gets really close to them. It's a really cool effect. And Dai taking out the castle is great, too. I'm glad it's not just him kind of floating in front of it and simply slicing it in half from the front. He goes into the heart of the castle, flies through, knocks out some armors, and then he just lets loose his power. It was a nice effect. That poor shadow monster never had a chance.
Yeah, you're right. Dai just flew through all the tunnels, and it's zooming about, doing kind of the best thing that anime can do, those fast action sequences like that.
Yeah.
And then he gets the shadow from underneath. So great. Then there's episode 42, The Field of Death. After the defeat of the Sovereign Rock Castle, Mistvern is enraged yet again by his mistakes and threatens to take off his shadow raiment to reveal an even greater power. Kilvern steps in, though, to prevent him from unleashing his true power, and they both retreat. Pop chases after them, brashly, into a place called the Field of Death, where he confronts them. Kilvern uses his Reaper Flute, then, to freeze Pop in place, and nearly kills him. Dai arrives in time to save Pop, and the four of them face off. But just before they can clash, Hadlar appears, challenging Dai to a one-on-one battle in his new superior being form.
This is a great episode to set up another classic Dai Hadlar fight. I find it hilarious that Mistvern basically threatens them with getting naked to reveal his true power towards the beginning of this episode. Like, oh yeah, just watch me strip. This is I'm gonna show my true power by stripping.
Beware my shadow wang.
And also having to do with Kilvern. Kilvern's English voice actor's performance really shines in this episode. It just drips with a delicious dose of confidence and pretentiousness. I love it. It reminds me of Crispin Freeman's great performances doing Helsing from the anime Helsing and Helsing Ultimate, and his performance doing Albedo from Xenosaga. It's one of the better dub voice actor performances in general, the voice actor doing Mistvern, along with Pop's voice actor and his performances as well. They're two of my favorites. Personally, I thought it was funny when Hyunkel tells Pop to head northwest. Just because, myself, I'm so bad with directions. Had it been me as opposed to Dai, I'd immediately be lost. I'd be like, northwest? Oh, sure. I'll go this way, I guess. And I'd probably go in the wrong direction. Also in this episode, Hyunkel faints at some point from overexerting himself. I love that Crocodile just kind of looks over and just does not care whatsoever. He's like, oh, you fainted. Okay, cool. He's just more concerned with Dai and Pop. And can you blame him since, Hyunkel basically skewered him with a sword back when they were enemies?
Understandable. I agree that Kilvern's English voice actor does a great job. He is definitely one of the best actors on this show. The character is so arrogant and fun, and he looks cool too. Plus, his sickle doubling as an evil magical instrument is just clever. Pop following the enemies into an obvious trap where nobody will be around to help him, though, is so dumb. But it's classic Pop. He's lucky that Dai shows up to save him. I enjoy that Hadlar apologizes to Mistvern for the wait when he shows up and says it's his turn to help now. Hadlar is a jerk, but I get the impression that he's growing just a little bit, or at least it's nice to see some of his personality that's not just aggression. And then right at the end, when Hadlar bursts out of his cloak and flicks his hair back, he manages to look impressive and imposing. I can't wait to see what happens in the next episodes.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. And before we leave you today, we have some fun Dai news.
Infinity Strash, the Adventure of Dai console and PC game, was recently featured at a Jump Victory Carnival event.
The event even had the first ever playable demo of the game.
Exciting. I wonder what part of the game the attendees got to play.
We don't know, but if we do find out, we will share with you guys what the demo features. I'm sure there will be even more events that will feature this demo as well, so hopefully we'll find out more info.
If so, they'd better hurry. After all, Infinity Strash comes out on September 28th, about 2 months from now. Do we have anything new in the Dai Pendy mailbag?
You bet we do. I got my grubby little hands on 2 pieces of Dai merchandise since we last recorded.
Oh, what did you get this time?
My pre-order for the Flazard figure made by Figma came in. That was I think I pre-ordered that 8 months ago. It's a fantastic figure of Flazard, the villain whose body is made up of half fire and half ice, if you have forgotten, since he has not been in one of the episodes for quite a while for what we have reviewed. And the toy has a few different setups that you can do as well. Different head pieces, different hand pieces, and poses you can do. I currently have him posing, charging up his 5-finger flares.
That's forbidden magic. Might anger the gods.
So be it. I'll take my chances.
What else did you get?
I also got the recent release of the Dai novel called Each Way.
Is it the Dai story in novel form?
Nope. So it's supposed to be just 5 individual stories featuring Dai, Pop, Mam, Hyunkel, and Leona. They are original stories that take place during the timeline of the Dai story.
That's a cool concept. Are you able to read these stories?
Not even a little bit. I bought it more as a collector's piece, and it does have the occasional great piece of artwork here and there. Hopefully some brave soul out there translates it one day, just as somebody is doing with the Yvonne prequel manga. We will see.
Well, it's a cool thing to collect for sure. And yeah, if there was an English translation, you'd sort of be entitled to have that translation because you own the real thing. So yeah, how cool. By the way, this isn't Dai related, but I did want to mention that I've gotten really into the Dragon Quest Treasures game in the last couple of weeks. Didn't you play that one on Switch?
Yes, I did. So I'm guessing you got the Steam version that just came out recently?
Indeed, I did. Yeah, I got a review copy of the Steam version, so I'm supposed to write a review at some point. I really wanted to finish it over the summer break before I had to go back to work very soon. So I've been playing it as much as I can on my Steam Deck, which is like a more powerful Switch, so it's a very nice experience, and the loading times are pretty good and all that. I mean, it still takes a while to load into areas, but way faster than Switch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so anyway, I'm just like a super busy person. I have a lot of things going on in my life, like a lot of interests and all that. So I usually play indie games and more casual games instead of these big RPGs, even though I love Dragon Quest. So this is the first JRPG that I've put a significant amount of time into in probably 4 years. Yeah, I'm nearly at the end of the game. I've played it for over 30 hours. And like I said, to do that in just a few weeks, that's a lot for me, and sometimes I would get fussed at by people in my life because they want me to, to do something else with them or to go to sleep or whatever it is. But anyway, Treasures, very briefly, because we've talked about it before, but Treasures is a game about Eric from Dragon Quest XI. It's a young version of him, like young Terry, and his sister, and they get taken to this fantasy world where they just everyone hunts for treasure on these mysterious floating islands. And so one of your goals is to explore the islands and especially to look for all the treasure you can find, because the treasure is like collectibles, they're sort of randomized, but you can collect all these different cool things, including lots statues of lots of characters that show up intact, so there's tons of characters where I haven't played that exact Dragon Quest game, but I know that character because I have that unit intact. So that's neat. And it's just it's a beautiful game. It has a lot of genuine Dragon Quest music, so some very memorable music from a lot of different games. A lot of really good qualities to it, and I especially love the exploration because I'm a guy who, in Oblivion, I spent hundreds of hours exploring in Oblivion. I love filling in a map and just seeing what I can see. This game has a lot of traversal and climbing things, like maybe in an Assassin's Creed or something like that. But as I get farther in the game, and because I'm squeezing this experience into a relatively short time period for me, I do have to say that there are 2 elements that I find repetitive. And one is that the environments are so huge that when you have to go to one of the islands to do a quest, it takes a lot of time to get to places where you might need to go for that quest, and that time really adds up. So it's sort of in this thing that in another game would take me 15 minutes. In this game, it takes me 30 or 45 minutes just because it's so big and there's so many distractions as you go from one place to another. So that's getting on my nerves a little bit. But the most annoying thing is that after a certain point in the game, you periodically get attacked by rival gangs, like rival treasure hunters.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And it is just downright obnoxious. Like you'll be trying to do something, like you're exploring or you're fighting a difficult enemy or something. And then boom, all of a sudden you're attacked by a mini boss, and like they're not normally that hard in and of themselves. But if your team was already a bit weakened because you were already fighting or something, like it can really screw you up. And I was dying at first from this happening occasionally, but mostly it's just repetitive. Japanese gamers seem to have a greater tolerance for repetition than Western gamers, certainly a greater tolerance than I have. So getting a little bit tired of those things, but I still really want to finish and see where the story goes.
No, that's cool. It was a stealth drop for the Steam release. The time that it was exclusive on the Switch apparently ended, and Square Enix just said one day a couple weeks ago, hey, it's coming out on Steam today. There was no warning whatsoever. It was just like, hey, it's out on Steam right now. And they did a live stream that was cool. I actually sat in on that and watched them play it a little bit and show you that it's Steam Deck compatible, because that's what you've been doing this whole time, and they officially said so as well. And it's great that it's on another platform that people can play. Like, I love, it was a good game for the Switch, but it's also good that it can be on Steam as well, because that opens it up to so many other gamers that can enjoy Dragon Quest and enjoy that game. And if you want to see more about the game, we had an interview with a Square Enix rep before the game came out. It's Slime Time episode 64. And then a handful of us actually did a full review of the game after the game came out in Slime Time episode 65, if you want to go check that out.
Man, I'm going to have to listen to that again as soon as I beat the game so I can compare your impressions to mine.
Mm-hmm. And one last surprise for tonight. I just found out hours before this recording that we might have an exciting interview lined up related to the Infinity Strash game coming out in September.
An interview with whom?
I can't say anything just yet, as it's still in the works, but we will spread the word as soon as more details emerge. Look forward to it.
With that as a cliffhanger, we'll wrap up this episode of Slime Time Tactfully Dai. If you want to prepare for the next episode, be sure to watch episodes 43 and 44 of The Adventure of Dai, either subtitled on Crunchyroll or dubbed in English on Hulu, Vudu, the library app Hoopla, or the Microsoft Store.
We're a non-profit podcast. We won't assassinate your hard-earned gold when we can offer you quality content for free. But if you do have some extra gold that's just completely burning a hole in your wallet, pouch, bottomless bag, treasure chest, or even searchable wall sack, and you would like to donate anything to a website that's been supporting Dragon Quest fans for over 25 years, stop by the Dragon's Den by clicking the link in the show notes. There are several ways to support the Den, including the affiliate links that don't cost you anything extra when making other Dragon Quest purchases.
We even have a Slime Time t-shirt you can buy that was created by our resident artist, Dwayne. See the link for it in the show notes.
As part of the Slime Time Extended Universe, or STU, you can direct comments or questions for the podcast on Twitter and Instagram at DQ Slime Time.
And you can follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/EastX Come watch me play a variety of games every Saturday, kids.
Join in tons of Dragon Quest discussion at the Dragon's Den forums or Discord, and the Dragon Questers, Infinity Strash, and Dragon Quest Tact Global Facebook groups.
We'd like to thank everyone that made this podcast possible, including Pendy Penderton, Woodis Woodstofferson, the Dragon's Den, and Paul Rubens. May he rest in peace.
That was sad news. Apparently he had been battling cancer for many years, and we are actually going to do a side quest episode on his show and movies here probably in about 2 or 3 weeks. So we'll have that and, have a nice little look back on the career of Paul Rubens.
Good.
Please like, subscribe, and write a review for the podcast.
We'll catch you later, everybody. Don't hate, appreciate.
Time to zoom on out of here.
Lately days are getting dark before you've had a chance, but remind yourself the truth can be a never-ending task. Even now, with what we've got, how far can we go until it's gone? Sometimes I swear I hear a voice, look, no one's in the other room. All alone I thought I had an angel, someone keeping an eye on me. Even love, So I made a promise to remember every little thing, to every piece of my heart, keeping the fire burning, letting in the light to see what's waiting for me on the other side of this world. I wanna change, so reach out and find the path that no one else can tell us what's to come.
This is Gertrude for Slime Time, reminding you all that you must complete your adventure.